Welcome to CFD's Industry Insight Conversation with DHL. I'm Sasha Brown, Director of Professional Development at the CFDA, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Rachel McGarry, who is the head of e-commerce at DHL Express US. Rachel leads the business development efforts for the fast-growing and dynamic e-commerce sector, including responsibility for engaging the various partners that make up the complete e-commerce ecosystem. DHL, the world's leading logistics provider, has served as CFDA's official logistics partner since 2017 and is committed to helping our members expand their businesses globally. Today, Rachel will highlight the complex and evolving issue that is the global supply chain crisis and will help us better understand its impact to the fashion industry. So welcome, Rachel. Thank you for joining us today. Can we start by sharing some background on what caused the disruption and how has it specifically impacted the vast network of vendors that connect the fashion industry?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you. So to dig into the question, I think the best way to think about it is the butterfly effect. You think about a drop of water hitting a lake and then the impact ripples outwards, right? So think about the vessel that blocked the Suez Canal last year. I think everybody remembers that. So between 10 and 12% of global trade goes through that canal every single year. And when it's out of commission, global trade backs up. And it didn't just impact the ships that were just waiting, in line to go in next. It impacted the ships that were anticipating to go into the canal 2 or 3 weeks later, which sends companies looking for alternative routes and modes for their cargo, which puts, again, a strain on an already strained global logistics network, right? So what began as an issue of sea cargo moved to air cargo, for example. So everybody's moving from one to another. And that knock-on effect is where you see the compounding disruption. And unfortunately, there's no easy fixes for that because each node along the supply chain needs to scale. But that's where you really find it.
Perfect. So in the news, we've heard President Biden and various port directors talk about this issue. And they've claimed that we would soon see this issue being resolved. But economists on the flip side are predicting that this could last a year or even more. So what is your take on the trajectory of this disruption?
Yeah. Gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball, right? All I see is that, and kind of what I noted earlier, is just everything needs to scale along with the demand. We've just seen it go wild. And it's going to take time. So you might have a infrastructure get fixed, or we'd be hiring, et cetera. But everywhere needs to fix in order to see the absolute, to see this disruption dissipate, right? So all of those things is why it's difficult to predict. And it impacts the extended forecast, right? That everybody's saying, oh, one part's fixed, but maybe not looking at the rest of the story. So for example, our friends in the trucking industry, they can't recruit and train the drivers that we would need just overnight, right? Looking for drivers, like they've been having shortages, as you probably know, and it just takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I wish we had that crystal ball, but we'll move on to our next question. Now that there are new COVID outbreaks in China, which is home to one of the largest cargo ports in the world, and on top of that, with labor shortages at ports in the West Coast of the United States, are there solutions or opportunities that brands should be considering to mitigate delays?
I mean, the short answer is yes, but this advice actually predates the pandemic. We've been talking to our customers about diversification as a means to drive efficiencies across the board for years. I mean, there's been tax law changes, labor laws, sourcing or production availability. All those variables come up and they get in the way. And by diversifying your modes of transportation or suppliers, when those changes happen, you have the ability to respond. there's like less risk when you kind of spread it around, right? And so the pandemic has exacerbated the variables in just massive ways. I think it's more of a timing thing. So particularly in e-commerce, which the demand has just accelerated in an incredible way in a very short amount of time. And so I'd say diversification was a trend that like I said, the pandemic was just the accelerant. And I still think that's the solution that we'll continue to look at to mitigate the delays and the overall risk moving forward.
Right. So can you share some examples about how DHL is combating this issue currently and working with fashion brands to minimize the impact?
Yeah. We work really closely with our customers to advise and to make necessary changes just on our own network. That's like buying planes, investing in new facilities to handle backlogs. At Express, we have a fixed network that handles time-sensitive packages primarily, right? And so when the ocean, as an example, right, the ocean is backlogged, brands look to air freight to move product and keep inventory. So we made critical adjustments in our network to meet the demands and the needs of our customers who need alternatives to ocean. Where we fit in or have fit in traditionally has been a just-in-time manufacturing model. And we've seen a shift, right? We talk to our customers, we've seen that shift where it includes brands that are using us out of this, like a fear of running out. What is that, FORO? Fear of running out. But beyond that, I think I'll note one other thing, which is supply chain disruption impacts more than just the operation, right? It impacts customers, the brand's customers, right? So you want to make sure that you have inventory to sell, you have new lines in production, but the brand also has to consider their customer experience. And delivery experience is a key value for brands who sell online, and most do, right? So in the middle of disruption, brands who proactively communicate availability of product, lead time, all the way to giving them options, right, of when their package is delivered, where it's delivered, et cetera, ends up bringing or building trust and loyalty in the middle of disruption. So it's increasing the communication, the clarity that you give customers in terms of expectation and overall experience, because people get it. We're all consumers. I'm a consumer, you're a consumer. And we know that there's a disruption, right? That's an acknowledged piece of life right now. But the brands who adapt quickly, remain transparent, and partner with carriers that are able to reliably deliver a brand promise will have a leg up.
Great feedback. Thank you, Rachel. So my last question is, can you share a bit about DHL's long-term plan to navigate this disruption?
Yeah. Well, first off, we're investing in our people. What we knew well before the pandemic that our network is only as strong as our people. Just this year, actually, we were ranked the world's best place to work, but like the world's best place to work, from Great Places to Work and with Fortune magazine. The pandemic certainly put a fine point on this, and our investment in the safety of our people and the development of our people is the number one priority. So that's a long-standing priority, but I think that continues to push us up front. DHL has been making strategic investments over the last few years, with more planned, adding capacity, like I had mentioned before, bringing new aircrafts and facilities online, hiring more colleagues to handle the increased volume. And we do that within the US and we do it globally. I think just last summer, our region committed to an investment of $360 million in infrastructure development and hired more than 5,000 people in just 18 months, which is, phenomenal investment, like I mentioned. And I think the last thing I'd note for a long-term navigation of ongoing disruption is our focus on digitalization. And what I mean by that is taking advantage of the technological advances in robotics and AI. Last year, we had our first AI-powered robotics arm that was put in a sortation service in Miami. And all that's done to improve our internal processes and automation so that we can continue to provide really best-in-class service to our customers. So those are the ways that, cumulatively we continue to solve the problems in the current state, but then also plan for ongoing either disruption or just ease of use moving forward.
That's great to hear. And we are so grateful at the CFDA to have this partnership with DHL, and also grateful to you, Rachel, for sharing these really helpful insights with our community. So for everyone watching today, I'm happy to share that Rachel will be joining us once again on February 23rd. She'll be hosting a masterclass where we will build on how brands can capitalize on cross-border trends, expansion strategies, and how you can optimize your e-store to grow in the international market. So please make sure to join myself and Rachel and register via the link below, and we will see you then. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.